Terraforming Mars. It's a really fun game, but you might be intimidated by how to play it because there is so much to go through. I just learned how to play it this week, so I know exactly what you're going through. I read the rulebook and watched a few videos before I was able to really figure it out. So in this video, I'm going to make it easy for beginner players, including how to set up the game, different actions that you'll be taking throughout the game, including the flow of everything. And then we'll also walk you through at the very end any additional rules that you need to know. And then at the end, I'll also include information about stuff that I stumbled on when I was first learning how to play. So you might stumble on that as well, and this will be a helpful guide for you. Let's go ahead and get started with Terraforming Mars for beginners. Now let's start with the setup. Go ahead and lay out your board so it's flat. Every player is going to get one of these papers. And then you're going to get, there are these bright colored cubes you'll set in front of your play tin. And then you also have 3 white cubes. One will be on the 1 in the bottom left. One will be in the 0% on this range. And then one will be at the -30%. The next part of setting it up is there are 9 blue tiles that came with the game. Go ahead and place them in one stack over the 9 and watermark symbol right here. After you've done this, I like to pull out the silver, gold, and bronze so they're easy to access. There are things online on Amazon, on Etsy, containers for all of this that look really awesome. I use plastic bags when I put them away, but I can definitely see the benefit of actually putting them in containers. So check that out. I might even find a couple and put them in the description below. So check out the description below for links to that. And then you have these tiles. They are on one side, they're gray, and on the other side, they're green. You can just put them to the side for now. You don't have to stack them, but I liked the visual of 2 green and 2 gray, so that's why I did so. And then there are some additional tiles that have mostly brown. This one has green on it and a white tile. Other than that, you've got a 1-person token and 4 different types of cards. So these cards have a terraformed view of Mars. And then on the front side, you've got this little red symbol in the bottom left. For your first time playing Terraforming Mars, they recommend not playing with this, so I actually just put it to the side. You have a lot more cards that have the same symbol on the back with a slightly terraformed Mars look. No little red and white triangle in the bottom left. So these cards are going to be your draw cards. I just put them in an easily accessible place so that you can reach them easily. You'll need to do it multiple times throughout the game. 2 other kind of cards. There's these cards that have a Earth. I think one of these is supposed to be Mars and Mercury and something else, I'm not really sure. And on the front it says corporation really small in the back, and each of them have something different on them, but they're outlined in this gray color. The other deck of cards you have is the same image, but it's black and white. And on the front it says beginner corporation. If this is your first time playing Terraforming Mars, these are the cards that you're going to be using, and you'll be putting these cards to the side. For beginners, you'll go ahead and hand out one of these cards to each of the players. And later, once you are more experienced with terraforming, playing a couple games, you can use the other cards you draw to look at one, whichever one you want, and you keep one. But for this game and this walkthrough, we are doing a beginner's version, so that is why we're doing the beginner's corporation. The only other thing that you need to do to get started is on your board, you're going to place your cubes on the 1s for each section, like so. And this is different than what you would do with the solo version. I'm working on a video for how to play Terraforming Mars for solo, so check out my channel for that. As you can see, I already did the setup for all the other players, and we are ready to get started. Each player is going to, because they're beginners, they are going to start with 42 credits. The credits are these pieces. Gold is worth 10 credits, silver is worth 5 credits, and copper is worth 1 credit. So each beginner gets 42. So 4 of these, and 2 of these. And when it comes to credit, you can use, for example, 2 silvers that also add up to gold. It is your choice. I like how colorful gold, silver, and copper are together, so I'm going to keep all of them. And I'll do the same for the other players since they're not actually playing. As part of your card, it says to take 10 of these. So each player is going to take 10. And these cards you're going to keep secret and don't show your opponents. Now that everyone has their 10 cards dealt, it is time to do the last part of the setup, which is everyone places a player token at the 20 mark on the board. And an easy reminder is there is this little symbol. It is your TR or terraforming rating right here. So we're going to go ahead and place all 3 on the 20. Before we get into actually playing, let's talk about the goal of the game. So the goal of the game is to get as many victory points and TR points, terraforming ratings, as possible. The terraforming ratings are when you move your piece across this outside board all the way to 100. And then there is also victory points. For example, these circles here indicate victory points, and sometimes cards will indicate victory points. The person with the most accumulative wins. There are different ways that you can get bonus victory points. For example, if one of your plant tiles is by a water tile, you get 2 additional victory points for every water tile that it touches. Okay, I was editing this video when I noticed I accidentally said water tiles instead of land tiles. So for every land tile you're touching, you get a bonus VP. So if you have any questions about this, be sure to check out the rule book. It will walk you through scoring, as well as one of those, there's 4 cards. Of those 4 cards, it gives you the breakdown of scoring. So check out that card. It will clear up any concern that you have about this. Now, the way the game ends is these pieces make it all the way to the top, and this piece makes it all the way over here. And all 9 water tiles are out on the board. At this point, everyone stops playing and you add up your VP and TR points. Let's talk about the gameplay of each generation. Generations is essentially a round, and each round you're going to begin by moving the generation token forward 1, and then you're going to place the first person token over to the left clockwise so the next person can play first. And then you're going to enter what's called a research phase. A research phase is when you take 4 cards and you review the cards. You can decide if you want to keep these cards, and if you want to keep the card, then you will just pay 3 credits for each card that you keep, and you can add that to your hand. The remaining cards will go in your discard pile. After the research phase is the action phase. There are a couple of different actions you can do on your turn. And once the action phase is completed, you're going to do the production phase. Now on the first round, you are going to start on the action phase. The actions that you have available to you, if you ever forget, you can look at the action phase card. I found when I first started playing that was a little bit confusing, so let me just quickly go through them. You can do a standard project. That would mean that you use whatever is on the side to get one of these actions. So for example, you can discard one of the cards in your hand and get 1 credit. You can play 11 credits and get 1 additional movement on your energy board, which will go through what all of these means. You can increase the temperature. You can place a water tile. You can place a land tile. You can place a city tile. So that's an example of your standard project actions. Another action that you can do is you can claim a milestone. There are 3 opportunities to claim milestones if you meet the requirements of the milestones. For example, this one says mayor. There's a 3 and the city tile. It's these gray tiles. If you have 3 gray tiles out on the board, you can pay 8 credits to claim the prize. Now notice how there's first to claim, second claim, third claim. Only 3 of these milestones can be claimed throughout the entire game. The awards one is you can put in your bid for an award. They call it, you can put in your fund in a word. And each of these have different requirements. I'd actually, instead of spending your time and confusing you, if you decide that you want to play in a word, I'd look at the rule book. It's really easy to understand. Essentially, landlord is if you have the most cities at the end of the game, you win the award, which is 5 victory points for the first winner and 2 victory points for the contender. To put in your bid though, you'd have to pay for it. So say you pay 8 credits and then you'd place your piece on here. This would suggest that you want to be in the running for the most land. And let's say you do end up with 3 and everyone else only has 1 city, then you would win this award, which is 5. But let's say everyone else is in this award and black ends up having more land or more cities than you, then black would have actually won. So even though you paid for getting in, you still lost. And then the most common action that you'll be doing throughout the game is playing these cards. Now all of these cards tell you the cost of the cards in the top left. For example, this one costs 11. To play this card, you need to meet the requirements of the card. And it tells you the requirements of the card in the bottom section. For example, this one says decrease your energy production 1 step and increase your heat production 4 steps. To play this card, you'd have to pay the 11 credits, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. And you have to be able to decrease your energy. So this is your energy production. You recognize the production is on a scale of 1 to 10. And the symbol matches the symbol on the card. Decrease your energy production by 1 step. So everyone starts on the 1 in this version of the game. You decrease it by 1, it is now at 0. And then you can increase your heat production 4 steps. So here is the heat production. It matches the symbol of this. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And this card is fulfilled once you pay for it. So it costs 11. There we go. I've paid for it using my credits. For green cards, you're going to be placing them face down. Let's look at some other cards that you could be playing on your turn. For example, this blue one. This blue card, it costs 9 credits, which we have, but it also requires +2 Celsius or warmer, meaning this piece right here would have to be at the +2 or warmer section before we can play it. In this case, it does not meet the requirements, so I can't play this card. If I could play this card though, I'd be able to decrease any plant production 1 step from another opponent. And you can tell that I get to choose it's another opponent because there is a red square around the plant symbol. You get 1, and then in addition you get 1 VP for every animal on this card. So this card, once you play it, you'll keep it on your table face up. So let's say I have this card down on my table. I've already paid for it. All the requirements are met. And I can actually use it over and over again each generation. So if I want to do it, I just say add action, add 1 animal to this card. If I'd like to add an animal, there's also a microbe card similar to this. You just take one of the copper pieces and places it on the card. Now to help you remember that you already played this card this generation, you're going to place one of your player tokens on the card as well. At the end of the game, you are going to divide 1 by the number of animals, which are indicated by these tokens. 1 divided by 1 equals 1, so I get an additional 1 victory point for this card. So these are green cards. You are going to continue to lay face up, and you can just stack them as such. There are some cards that require you to have a certain number of these symbols played before you can play them, and this will help you keep track of that by keeping them face up, and other players can see it as well. Then you have the blue cards that you leave face up as well and can play them every single round. The other kind of card is this orangish reddish card, which in this case, it requires a -8 degrees Celsius or warmer. So I have 8 degrees Celsius or warmer here. And if I play this card, it costs me 8 credits. So I'm going to trade in 10 credits and get 2 back. And I get to place 1 water tile. I can place this water tile on any of the blue water tile sections. When you place a token that lands on a space that has a symbol on it, you also gather a resource from that. So for example, let's say I place this water plant here. I'm covering up 2 stars, which relates to this space, and I can put 2 resources on it. Now let's talk about something that's really special about this, is these pieces can equal 3 credits each. So this little piece is actually worth 3 credits. I can spend them like credit, but I can't get change back. So for example, if I had this 5 here and I wanted to pay for a card that was worth 4, I could pay the 5, but because it's a resource, I can't get a token back. Once you play the card, you are going to place it face down in a discard pile. In addition to those main actions, you also have the opportunity to play one of the plant or heat actions. So for example, on this board, it says if you have 8 of these, you can trade them in for a tile, one of these. If you have 8 of these symbols on your heat, you can churn it in to move one of these. Every time you move a temperature gauge or the oxygen level or place a water tile, you can move your piece forward for each one. Now let's say we get to the end of the game and you play this heat, but the heat is already up to its max. You do not get to move forward for that action. Once you are done with your 2 actions or 1 action, you can say, okay, my turn is over, it's your turn now. And the person to your left gets to go again. You can continue going until everyone at the table has passed. Remember, you have up to 2 actions per turn. So when your turn is over, just tell the person to your left that it is over. Everyone can play, and you can play again on your next turn, or you can choose to pass. Say you don't have enough credits to do what you'd like to do, you can say pass. Once everyone passes, that phase in the game is over and you move on to the next part of the generation, which is the production phase. My favorite phase. Production phase is when you get the benefits from all the work that you just did. You're also going to move the energy over to heat because energy raises to heat. That's what this arrow means. So you're going to look at your board and you're going to gather a resource. For example, this one says I have my piece on the 1. So I get to gather 1 of these on that. 1, all of these say 1. And this one says 5. Now that your production phase is over, you move the generation token, move the first player token, and start with the research phase, action phase, and it continues forward like that. Now that you've got basic gameplay, let me talk about some things that I was confused with when I first started playing so that you don't have to worry about it as much. First off, these 4 cards, I read them when I first got them, but I didn't understand them until we started playing. So on the first card, just remember this is going to help you remember what order each phase is of the round. And then this second one is really helpful. You can see for the water token what happens. You place it in a reserved water area and you gain 1 TR. So if you ever wonder what happens when you place a green thing, you can just use this card, number 2, called Tiles, to learn that action. Number 3 is just general information, which I actually should have read this more often because I didn't quite understand it when I first read it. Red border. A red border on a resource indicates that you may target any one player. This card, for example, has a red line around the plant symbol, which means that this action can be targeted towards a different player, including yourself. If there's a reason that you want to target yourself for that action, you can. And then production. Production is marked by a resource icon in the brown box. This is probably the thing that I got the most confused with, was I didn't understand the difference between gain resource and raise production. Gain resource means that you're going to be placing a piece on that resource, whereas raise production means that you're going to move the production line over one. And this is important for the last part of the generation, which is the production phase. You're going to look at your production phase and gather the resources based on that. I also didn't understand the animal or algae cards. Some of these cards in here have this animal symbol, and people talked about adding animals to them, and I didn't understand what that means. Essentially, some cards have the action where if you have so many animals, you get additional victory points for it. Otherwise, you don't really have to worry about what an animal is. There are also cards like this one that has a little microbe symbol in the top right corner, and what they are, they're similar to the animal cards, where add a microbe to another card. So you'd be, if you had a card that gave you victory points for having a microbe on it, then you would be able to use this card to help you get the victory points for that. There are a couple of other actions that I didn't mention. For example, these symbols here, they all mean something different, and the card will tell you what they do to learn that. So as a beginner, don't get overwhelmed by information. And that brings me to my last tip or recommendation is, now that you've watched this video, start playing. I know it seems a little overwhelming at first. Honestly, I know that's what it seems like because I was there. But now that I've played a few games, like even it was probably midway through the first game, I was getting my butt kicked. And it clicked. I was like, oh, I understand this game now. Okay. So it takes a couple of plays for you to be able to figure it out, and that's okay. But that's part of the fun of this game, is now you know how to play because you did, and you can play a little bit better every time. And if this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It was pretty difficult to make because this game, it seems overwhelming, but once you start playing, it's not that overwhelming, it's just fun. So enjoy playing, have fun, and thanks again for watching this video. Play Terraforming Mars and have fun with it. Okay, so I just finished editing the video. I really appreciate your time watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, and please like it and comment if you have any questions or recommendations for other people who are just starting to play. Thanks again for watching. Enjoy playing Terraforming Mars.